Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you are new, my name is Taylor and this is Benter's Bookshelf. Today is my July wrap-up video and this has been my best reading month ever. I have read a total of 35 books this month. Now it's been mostly ebooks and library books, so I won't have a lot of physical books to hold up, but I will insert in the corner here a picture of the cover of the book that I'm talking about. So I'm going to split these up into 5 categories. The first is going to be books that I did not finish, so my DNF category. The second is going to be the graphic novels and manga that I have read. Third will be middle grade, then YA, and then adult. So let's jump right in with my DNF category. Now there are 3 books in this category, gave them a shot, just weren't a right fit for me. So these are just my personal views. Obviously, if you loved the book, great. I'm glad you found something that you enjoyed, but for me, they just didn't work. So the first DNF on my list is The Thrilling Adventures of Lovelace and Babbage by Sydney Padua. Now this is a graphic novel about Ada Lovelace and Charles Babbage and their collaboration to create the mechanical counting machine, which was essentially the idea for the first computer. Now, I love Ada Lovelace and Charles Babbage. I love reading about them. I love the history of them. So I really had high hopes for this graphic novel. I thought it was going to be something fun and entertaining about 2 of my favorite historical figures, but it got weird. It got a little ridiculous in my opinion. So the first part of the novel, it did go through the accurate history of Lovelace and Babbage and their collaboration. And Sydney Padua ended up going into like alternate versions of history with the pairing, and it just got so weird. And just as I was going through it, I was just thinking, this is absolutely ridiculous. Like, why did the author do this? And all of that. So it was a DNF for me. I got 35% through it and just couldn't continue. The next book on my DNF list was one that I thought I was really going to like when I read the summary on Goodreads, and it is A Cup of Friendship, or The Little Coffee Shop of Kabul by Deborah Rodriguez. Now this book follows the journeys of 5 women in Kabul. We have Sunny, who owns a coffee shop. We have Yasmina, who is a widow who is pregnant and has been stolen from her family. We have Candace, who is a wealthy American who left her husband for her Afghan lover. We have Isabel, who is a determined journalist in Kabul writing. And then we have Halajan, who is the den mother figure of the story. Now, as these women navigate through their journeys and meet one another, they form this bond, and it forever changes their lives and the lives of many others. Now, again, I gave this book a shot because it sounded interesting. It sounded like something I would really enjoy. I just could not get into it. I didn't feel for the characters, which is kind of the whole point of this book. I did read to about 35% and just decided to put it down. I may try and give it another shot next year or the year after, but for where I'm at right now and my taste in books, it just wasn't a good fit. Okay, and the last book on my DNF list for July is The Complete Emily the Strange by Rob Rieger. Now this is a bind-up of the Complete Emily the Strange comics by Dark Horse Comics. and it binds up the volumes 1 through 12. Now, Emily is not your ordinary young teen. She is really into dark things. She has a horde of black cats that follow her around. She's very witty, and she has a lot of famous friends that meet up with her in very odd places. Now, I had picked this as a graphic novel or a comic for my Summerine TBR, because I wanted to break up the kind of heavy novels that I was reading for Summerine. And I got about a quarter of the way through, and there was no like plot really. It was just a bind up of like individual comics that didn't really connect with each other except for the main character being Emily. And I was just looking for something a little more cumulatively plot driven, and it just didn't work. I really wanted to like it. The art style was really good. I just was looking for something more substantial than what this bind up was. All right, getting into the graphic novel and manga category. Now, I got on a huge graphic novel and manga kick this month, and I was flying through them. I know a couple of days there, I read like 4 or 5 a day, and it was just, yeah, I don't know why. I just got in the mood, and here we are. So the first 2 I want to talk to you about are part of a series. They're the only 2 published so far. The third one is supposed to be coming out, I believe, next year, and that is the L's graphic novels. Now, volume 1 is The New Girl, and volume 2 is the L-verse, and these are by Kid to Saint. I gave both of these novels 4 stars, and I really enjoyed them. So they're about this girl, L, who has dissociative identity disorder. It doesn't come out and expressly say that. However, we do follow her in her regular teen life as she is struggling with these different personalities fighting for dominance in her head. And I really enjoyed that there was that representation, as well as the like deep dive into how it affects Elle's everyday life with dealing with these different personalities, and when they show up in unexpected ways at unexpected times. And the illustrations for both of these novels were just absolutely fantastic. They were so vibrant, and the different personalities each had a different color associated with them, which I thought was really awesome. When Elle changes personalities in the story, her hair color changes to show that a different personality has taken over. And I was just really sucked into the story. I can't wait for the third one to come out. I'm excited to see where Elle's story goes from where it ended in volume 2. And like I said, 4 out of 5 stars, just a really solid, good graphic novel series. The next we have Sheets by Brenna Thumler. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. I thought it was absolutely incredible. So we follow Marjorie Glatt, who is a practical 13-year-old girl who is in charge of her family's laundry business. And then there's also Wendell, who is a ghost, and he is the ghost of a child who lost their life much too young. So Marjorie and Wendell's stories collide, and it turns into a funny disaster, and Wendell ends up turning the Glatt family laundry into his midnight playground, and Marjorie is dealing with the after effects of that. This novel was just so incredibly cute. The illustrations were a lot of use of like dull purple and pink, and of course there was white because we've got a lot of sheets. Obviously the title is Sheets, and it was just a wonderful, fun, light-hearted read that I would recommend to literally anybody. So like I said, 5 out of 5 stars for Sheets by Brenna Thumler. Please go pick it up from your library or your bookstore. It is just so freaking cute. Okay, staying on the same theme of ghosts with the graphic novels, we have Ghosts by Raina Telgemeier, which I also gave 5 out of 5 stars. Now, this one follows Maria and her family as they move to the northwest coast to have a change of atmosphere and a change of pace because Maria's sister Maya has been diagnosed with cystic fibrosis. As they explore their new home and learn things about the town, a neighbor informs them that their new town, Bahia de Luna, has ghosts. And I totally misspoke earlier. The main character is not Maria, it's Katrina. So carrying on with the summary here, they just learned that Bahia de Luna has ghosts, and Maya is really fascinated and really wants to find a ghost, but Kat really doesn't. Kat is scared and anxious and wants nothing to do with the ghost business. But as Dia de los Muertos approaches, Kat has to learn to put her fears and anxieties aside for her sister's sake, as well as her own sake, because things do get a little spooky. So I thought this was an incredible middle grade graphic novel. It had Ghost, which I love. It focused on culture and the celebration of Dia de los Muertos, which has always been fascinating to me. And it focused on the relationship between two sisters. As someone who has a sister myself and who has 2 daughters and has watched their sister relationship grow, that is something that really touches my heart and I love to see in literature. And I think it was done very well in this graphic novel. Next up is a manga series by Ichigo Takano, and it is the Orange series. There are 5 volumes in the main series, and then a 6th volume that is like an epilogue volume that also follows one of the supporting characters from the main set as its main character. So I gave this series an average of 4.5 out of 5 stars. I thought it was absolutely amazing. I have read the series in its entirety. Now we follow Naho on the day that she starts 11th grade, and she receives a letter from herself 10 years in the future. And the letter gives her instructions on how to keep a new classmate of hers, Kakeru, safe, and telling her that she is the only one who can save him. Now, this was the first manga series that I've read since I was a teenager, and I loved it. I think it's probably one of my top 3 favorite manga series of all time, and I want more. I know it is an anime, and I plan on watching the anime just to see the story come to life in a different way. But yeah, I binged all 6 volumes over the course of a couple of days, and I think it's just a really great, mild sci-fi young adult manga series. Next up is Fence by C.S. Pacat, and I gave all 4 volumes of this series 4 stars. And I learned of this series from a few of Alexandra Roseland's videos, so I want to give her a little shout out. Thank you so much, Lexi, for turning me on to this series, and I am just forever grateful because it was absolutely awesome. So in Fence, we follow Nicholas Cox, who is determined to be a great fencer, like up there with the legendary fencers. One of the legends just happens to be his dad, who he's never met before. Now, he goes to this school, so we do have some academia vibes in this as well. And he is trying out for the school fencing team. And things get a little bit complicated when he has to compete against his half-brother as well as this like up-and-coming fencing prodigy, Seiji Katayama. So fencing has been an interest for multiple members of my family, myself included. You guys, this is just a really, really great series. It's competitive, but not annoyingly competitive. It focuses on a lesser hyped sport, and I really loved the lessons of perseverance and gaining clarity that were present throughout the series. The next graphic novel series should not come as a surprise. It is everywhere right now, both on BookTube, BookTok, Bookstagram, and has been adapted into a Netflix series, and that is Heartstopper by Alice Oseman. And oh my God, guys, like, you need to pick up the series. There's 4 volumes out right now, and each one, I gave 5 out of 5 stars. Oh my gosh, it is so cute. I couldn't stop smiling the entire time that I was reading all 4 volumes, as well as watching the series. I binged season 1 of the series in one night, and it gave me the same vibes and the same emotions and reactions as the graphic novels did. So we follow Charlie and Nick. Now they go to the same all-boys school and they become friends. Now Charlie is openly gay, and as their friendship grows, Nick starts questioning his sexuality and they become closer and closer. And this whole series follows their friendship as it blossoms and grows into something more. It is just so adorable, but at the same time, it is very relatable. It also goes into the mental health issues that Charlie is dealing with from being bullied for coming out. And it's so cute. It is so relatable. And it literally is like my favorite graphic novel series ever. Coffee break. All right, next up is volumes 1 through 3 of Paper Girls by Brian K. Vaughan. I gave each of these volumes 3 stars. We follow 4 12-year-old girls who are paper delivery girls in the early hours after Halloween in 1988. And weird things start to happen, and they uncover what is quite possibly the biggest story of all time. Suburban drama and other worldly things combine. It definitely gives Stranger Things vibes. The art style is really cool. Total like retro sci-fi. Now, I really wanted to like this series, and I was first turned on to this series because I saw the trailer for the Prime Video adaptation of it, and I really hope that the adaptation is going to be better. I was just very confused for the majority of the time reading volumes 1 through 3. Now, there are 6 volumes in total, and it is a complete series, so it may get better in the latter half of the series. However, from what I have read so far, I am not in any hurry to pick up the rest of the series. And the final graphic novel on my list is A Gift for a Ghost by Borja Gonzalez, and I gave this one 3 stars. So this is what I picked up to replace Emily the Strange for Summerween. I'm just gonna have to tell you what the Goodreads summary says, because I honestly could not put into words what this was about. And it says, an unsuccessful punk band and a parallel dimension, what could go wrong? Two parallel stories reflect and intertwine in a tale of youthful dreams and desires. Now, as I said, I couldn't tell you what this book was about. I have no idea what happened, even after finishing it. I liked the art style, and yeah, that's about it. I liked the art style. I did give it 3 stars, like I said. The story probably is there. It just went over my head. I wish I had understood the story, because I'm sure it would have been great. I was lost. The next category I'm going to go into is middle grade, and I'm going to start with The New Kid at School, which is the first book in the Dragon Slayers Academy series by Kate McMullen. Now, as you can see, we've got a really cute cover, and it is short. I give it a solid 4 stars. Now, I say 4 stars. I give it 4 stars for what it is, which is a younger middle grade novel. Now, we follow Wiglaf, and a traveling minstrel tells Wiglaf that he was born to be a hero. He then finds a flyer for the Dragon Slayers Academy. It is an ad posted for new students. So he's off to the Dragon Slayers Academy and has a first day of school that he will never forget. So this one was good. I think it was rushed a little bit. It was about 75% exposition and about 25% action. It is book 1 of the series, so maybe it gets better as the series goes on. But short, younger middle grade novel, The New Kid at School by Kate McMullen. Next up is Nancy Drew, The Secret of the Old Clock by Carolyn Keene. Now, there is some debate on whether this one is middle grade or YA. For me, it reads more middle grade, so I have included it in my middle grade category. Now, this is a reread for me. I read the entire Nancy Drew series as a child, and when I say entire series, I mean volumes 1 through 56, which is the original run with the publisher Grosset and Dunlap before they moved publishers. Now, in Mystery of the Old Clock, Nancy Drew seeks to find a missing will so she can restore inheritances to friends and family of the deceased that were promised inheritances, but were stripped of that when the will came to light, and a already wealthy and very unlikable family received all of the inheritance. Nancy thinks that there is a more recent copy of the will which has all of the friends and family who claim that they were promised inheritance, and she thinks it could be hidden inside an old clock that belonged to the deceased. So like I said, this was a reread for me, and it read just as wonderfully as it did the first time I read it. It is just very cozy and just like classic mystery vibes. Nancy Drew will always hold a place in my heart just because I grew up with Nancy Drew. Go check this out from your library or go to your bookstore. I highly recommend going to a used bookstore and seeing if you can find one of the old copies. 4-star read. Next up on my list is one that, guys, you need to pick up this book. It is City of Ghosts by Victoria Schwab. Now, this is the first book that I have read by Victoria Schwab. She is hyped all over the internet, and definitely hyped for a reason. This book was fantastic. 5 out of 5 stars. And for those who don't know, Victoria Schwab and V.E. Schwab are the same person. She does have books under both names. So in this, we follow Cassidy, whose parents are the inspectors, and inspectors with a E-R instead of an O-R at the end. Now, they have the opportunity to film a TV show based on their book series about the paranormal, and that brings them and Cassidy to Scotland, to Edinburgh. Cassidy just happens to be able to actually see ghosts. Her parents can't actually see ghosts, but Cassidy can. In fact, her best friend, Jacob, is a ghost. In Edinburgh, Cass meets another girl who can see ghosts. And she informs Cass and Jacob that the reason for being able to see ghosts is to send them on beyond the veil. So basically like sending them to peace. So throughout the time that they spend in Scotland, Cassidy's powers and curiosities get her into some pretty deep water that stretches both sides of the world of the living and the dead. Like I said, Victoria Schwab is hyped for a reason. I absolutely loved this book, though I do recommend that you do not read it with the Nick Jr. show Bubble Guppies playing in the background. I was reading it on the couch and my toddler was watching Bubble Guppies on the TV, and the cheery, bubbly music from Bubble Guppies paired with the creepy paranormal Scotland setting of City of Ghosts just did not mesh at all. I binged this book in less than 24 hours. It was so amazing, and I can't wait to pick up more of Victoria Schwab's works and see what other amazing stories she has to offer. Next up is one that I picked up for the Summerween Readathon, and that is The Haunting of Avalon Jones by Phil Hicks. I gave it a solid 4 stars, and we follow Avalon Jones during a break from school where she's going to the village of Malmouth to visit her aunt. Now, while there, she ventures into the local bookshop where she meets Harold and his uncle and finds a really old book about ghosts. Not only are the stories in the book spine-tingling, but she also finds out that the book was last owned by Primrose Penberthy, and that girl had gone missing, just vanished without a trace, and the last story in the book has been completely blacked out. So this has a little bit of mystery and it has spooky vibes. We're talking small town in Europe, and it is just so good. Now, the story was a little slow for the first quarter of the book, but then it picked up really fast paced from there. I couldn't put it down. It's definitely one that I have seen multiple places on BookTube, and that is for a reason. It was a solid read. Okay, only 2 more left in the middle grade category, and we have The Haunting of the Old Yellow House on Millard Road by D.A.L. I gave this a solid 4 stars. D.A.L. is an author that reached out to me through Instagram and kindly sent a copy of his book for me to read and review. My daughter also has read and reviewed it, and she gave it 5 stars. She really enjoyed it. So we follow James and his brother and sister and a few of his friends who take the challenge to spend the night in the Old Yellow House on Millard Road. Now, part of the challenge is to take a picture of a ghost and to find an artifact to prove that you spent the night in the house. They encounter a lot of spooky things. There is a little bit of a mystery involved, and while it was short, I think it was paced very well, and it was just a very good read. No? Totally forgot that I have it behind me. So yeah, The Haunting of the Old Yellow House on Millard Road by D.A.L. Solid 4-star read for me and 5-star read for my daughter. And look at this cover. Tell me that doesn't give you just all the vibes. So please, if you like this book, go to Amazon and buy it, and it is currently free through Kindle Unlimited if you have a subscription to that. So please check out this book, give it a review, give the author some love if you enjoyed it, and I will have DAL's Instagram down below if you'd like to check out upcoming releases from him. All right, the final book in the middle grade category is Nevermore, The Trials of Morrigan Crow by Jessica Townsend. And I gave this a solid 4 stars. Now, this is a book that has also been hyped up all over BookTube and Bookstagram. It was very whimsical and at times spooky. Even at times it felt a little bit like dark academia. It's one that my daughter is currently reading. She has it checked out from the library. It is about Morrigan Crow, who is on the Cursed Child Registry, and she is cursed to die on Eventide. Now, she isn't expecting Eventide to happen for another year. However, the clock suddenly changes to Eventide, and she finds out that she has less than 24 hours left. Jupiter North comes and whisks her away in this mechanical spider-looking machine and takes her to the magical land of Nevermore. She now has to enter the trials to become a member of the Wondrous Society. So these trials are built to test her to the end of her wit, of her mind, of her bravery, everything. And they are going to be the hardest tests of her life, but her life depends on it. I love the character of Morrigan Crow. She's dark and broody, and she, I think, really has a good deal of growth throughout the book. Now, this is book 1. I believe there are currently 3 books in the series that are published, and the 4th one is coming soon. It is just a very detailed and atmospheric read, and one that I think a lot of people will enjoy. Now we're going to get into the YA category, and we're starting off with The Betrayed by Kiera Cass. Now, this is the second book of the Betrothed duology, and we follow Hollis, who is on a jury from being the professed love of King Jameson to running away and falling in love with a commoner. Betrayed is a continuation of that story following the tragic events in part 1. I gave this book a 5 out of 5 stars. I loved Betrothed when it came out, and I completely missed the release of Betrayed, but I finally got around to reading it, and I just love the story of Hollis. I feel like she is a very relatable character. I love the very prominent issue of her loyalty towards her country, Kuroa, but also wanting to be loyal to the country of the commoner that she falls in love with, Isolti, and how that struggle just continues throughout the story and the conclusion that it ends up being. And it was just absolutely wonderful, and I'm both happy and sad that it's only a duology. Like, I want more, but at the same time, I am very satisfied with how it ended. Another YA novel by Kiera Cass that I read this month is The Siren. Now, this book I have had on my bookshelf for literal years. We're talking like 6 years. So this book follows Kaylin. Now, Kaylin is saved from drowning by the ocean, and as repayment for her life being saved, she is sentenced to be a siren for the ocean for 100 years. Flash forward, we are 80 years into Colin's sentence, and she is doing her duty to the ocean. She is singing the Siren song and bringing people to their deaths for the ocean as a sustenance for her. This is all good, and Kaylin has accepted her fate. However, she meets a young man named Akinley, and everything changes. It is definitely a story of soulmates, the pull that you have towards this other person, and it definitely causes issues between her and the ocean, and it is just a really great story about the power of love and the power of friendship, and I gave it a solid 4 stars. Also, I just want to show you, I love this cover. The dress is beautiful. It definitely gives that ethereal seaside feeling that is present throughout the book. And it's one that I think you should definitely pick up if you are into fiction books based around lore. Next up is My Soul to Take by Rachel Vincent. I read this for Summerween and I gave it 5 stars. It was so good. So we are following Kaylee, who has the ability, these premonitions of a person's death. So when she looks at someone who is close to death, she goes all in a panic and she has this uncontrollable urge to scream. Now, of course, that causes some issues in her life, and when a few young women in her town just start dropping dead, she is thinking that something is wrong. And with the help of her friend, she investigates the premature deaths of these young women. We've got banshees, there's also reapers involved. I loved the personal growth journey of Kaylee. I loved the romance that was in it. And it was just an overall fantastic read. This is the first book in a series. I believe there are 4, maybe 5 books total in the series. And I'm excited to read more. So if you like, again, fiction books based in lore, I definitely recommend picking up My Soul to Take by Rachel Vincent. It was 5 out of 5 stars. Absolutely an amazing read. Now on to the adult category. The first we have is Sourdough by Robin Sloan. Now this is one that I also learned of through Alexandra Roseland's channel, so thank you again, Lexi, for your fantastic recommendations. And this book follows Lois, and Lois is a robotics programmer. Now, the company she works for is very intense, and there is a lot of pressure to work non-stop, like massive, massive, massive overtime. One of her favorite restaurants that she basically eats every day because she doesn't have the time or the energy to cook ends up having to go out of business because the owners are being deported. Not necessarily like bad deported, but their visa is expiring. Now, before they leave, they gift her a sourdough starter, and they give her everything she needs to take care of it, all the instructions. And as she learns to take care of this sourdough starter and keep it alive, she noticed that there are some peculiarities about this certain starter. And this sparks just a journey of her finding herself and her passion for life and learning how to slow down and to appreciate the things that you have. And it is just a very wonderful and deep personal growth journey. It was just a very nice, comforting read. I don't really have anything else to say about it. Solid 4 stars for me, and that is Sourdough by Robin Sloan. Next up is book 3 in the Waverly Witches Cases series by Amelia Ash and Vered Ashani, and that is Witch Law to Break. Now, this is a cozy mystery series set in Kenya, And the main character, Evian, learns that she is a witch and that everything her grandmother and her aunt have told her previously has all been a lie. It is her journey to learning her powers and her journey of friendship and romance with a few supporting characters, as well as the search and desire to find her dad, who she learns is actually still alive. I gave this book a 4-star rating. The series is 6 books long. I've now read books 1 through 3. I wouldn't say it's a favorite, but it is definitely good. I'm not rushing to finish the series, but it is one that I believe I will finish at some point. All right, and the last 2 books for this video, I both read for Summerween, and they are Johnny Halloween, Tales of the Dark Season by Norman Partridge, and The Devil in Grey by Graham Masterton. So Johnny Halloween is a collection of Halloween-themed short stories. Now, I have read the Dark Harvest novel by Norman Partridge, and I absolutely loved that when I read it. So I had high hopes for Johnny Halloween, Tales of the Dark Season. Unfortunately, it just didn't meet the mark for me. I gave it 3 stars because I do like his writing style, and I know the potential was there, but a lot of the stories felt unfinished. There are really only 2 stories that I thought were actually good, one of them being an extension story of the novel Dark Harvest. So it did fall flat for me. I was disappointed. It was a bummer, but I did go ahead and give it 3 stars because I do like his writing style. The Devil in Grey by Graham Masterton. This is a novel set in the South where the Confederate blood still runs strong. It is set in modern times, so it's not like a period piece during the Civil War, but a lot of Civil War history is involved, as well as a focus on the religion of Santeria, which I thought was really interesting. It is a slasher novel. From the very first chapter, it is blood and gore, and I think it did it in a way that was very sophisticated versus the kind of like ridiculous slasher stereotype that you get. It follows the detective of the town who is investigating all these different murders and the lengths that he has to go to solve the mystery. And it does go into a little bit of the voodoo elements of the Santeria religion and a certain group of the Confederate Army, the Devil's Brigade. I'm not exactly sure if the Devil's Brigade was a real thing in the Civil War or if it was made up for the purpose of the story. But I really enjoyed it. I gave it a solid 4 stars. The whole novel just felt rich and sophisticated while still having that creepy factor to it. And Graham Masterton, this was the first novel of his that I read, and I am excited to read more of his works. All right, guys, that does it for my July wrap-up. I still can't believe that I read 35 books this month. That is so insane, and I'm very proud of myself, but also just completely like dumbstruck because I did not know that I could read that many books in 1 month. But if you enjoyed this video and you have made it this far, please leave a calendar emoji down in the comments and let me know your thoughts. I also will link my Summerween reading vlog video in the description box for you to watch if you haven't watched that one yet. As always, please like and subscribe and turn on notifications so you know when I have new videos going up. And I will see you guys in the next one.